What's up, parties and hardos? Back at it again. Ooh, Spinny with the surprise entrance to the video. We love that. Y'all probably thought he was gone. I was just going to be the only one on here this time.
Yeah, I think our hardies and hardos are smarter than that, boss. Come on, give them some credit. Give them some credit.
Yeah, they're definitely smarter than that. That's
except
for
for Chase, but
yeah, except for Richter. That's a fact. Even though I must say, speaking of his mock draft team, is doing a lot better than I anticipated on draft night. I was reaming him.
We all roasted him, and it's actually doing pretty good.
Yeah. Let's just jump right into it, though, Spinny. Let's start with the duds and studs from week 3 this past week. I'll throw out my first dud, and that was Ja'Marr Chase. I got him in a couple leagues. Very disappointed with his performance this week. He was projected 16.59 in half PPR, and he only scored 9.7 against the lowly Jets. So definitely an underperformance there. He was 6 for 10 on his targets, meaning he caught 6 of his 10 targets, 29 yards, and a touchdown. He also had a fumble. So again, this is similar to my Devonta Adams from last week. The touchdown's the only reason why he had a semi-okay game with 9.7. Otherwise, he would have been sitting there at like 4 or 5 points total. So huge underperformance for Ja'Marr Chase versus a terrible defense by the Jets.
My underperformance is Tyreek Hill. First one, dud nation, is Tyreek Hill. 3.3 points in standard. He would have 4.3 in half PPR. Super, super good week for him. Buffalo's D obviously good, but Jalen Waddle scored 11 points.
Yeah, I was going to say Waddle still did well.
Seemed more involved in the offense. Still, Waddle and Hill are 2-3 in receiving yards in the league right now. So nothing to worry about, I don't believe, but it was definitely a dud week from Tyreek Hill.
And that was without, help me out, Spinny. One of the corners was out. Micah Hyde. He's a safety anyways, isn't he?
Yeah.
Or is he a corner? Yeah,
but
either way.
He is a safety.
Banged up.
And Jordan Poyer was out, and Tre'Davious White was out.
Exactly. So super banged up secondary, and he still scored 3 points.
Yep.
We might as well keep rocking with the elite wide receivers that kept throwing out duds. My other one is Justin Jefferson. It's extremely disappointing to see his production against the freaking Lions. The Lions have had wide receivers go off against them in fantasy all year. So you would expected, at least a semi-good game for Jefferson, and he was not even a factor whatsoever. He had 6 targets, 3 catches, and only 14 yards. Was projected 19.64 in half PPR and only scored 2.9. 2.9 points out of Jefferson this week. This man got me axed in my guillotine league due to his underperformance. So I'm a little salty against Jefferson.
Goodbye.
Oh, so annoying.
The chopping block is coming.
Get out of here. But like Spinny said, he should bounce back. I'm not worried about it. Same with the Tyreek. So
yeah, I mean, we're gonna stick with it. Deebo Samuel is my next dud.
All stud receivers dudded it up this week.
Dudding it up. 5 rushing attempts for 6 yards, so they tried to get him involved, yet it didn't essentially work in the run game. Still had 5 receptions for 73 yards and 8 targets. San Francisco's offense just looked awful. And
yeah, it did.
I think Deebo can return to form as well, given it's essentially the same offense from last year. But once Jimmy G gets a couple more weeks in him, I think the timing and stuff will get there, and it'll be a tad bit better. But that was a rough one from the Niners, and also from Denver, who they played. 2 absolute garbage dumpster fire of offenses so far.
Just a brutal game to watch. It was such a boring game. But yeah, I agree. Jimmy, he'll get back on track. He's just a little rusty.
Yes, and I actually went 3 duds and 1 stud this week because I had a bitter day against this guy who has underperformed for me pretty much every week. Not every week.
Who is it?
But this week he was very needed, and he let me down, and that's Darren Waller. 2.2 from Darren Waller this week in standard. He had 3 catches for 22 yards. Absolute tough week. Drafted him high. I actually did end up winning in that league by 1 point, but I thought I lost at the time I made this, and so Darren Waller gets on the list. I'm concerned about the Raiders. They're 0-3. Hopefully we can get some more production out of their offense. They have a tough schedule, though. So a little disappointed in my guy, Darren Waller.
Yeah, the only upside from that game for the Raiders was Matt Collins. Is that his name? Just a random guy who's actually been playing really well these last 2 weeks. I mean, Devontae, he had a touchdown, but he was held to like 30-some yards too. So
classic. We got Renfro and Devontae and Waller, and we throw it up Mac Collins. Sick. That's a classic Derek Carr right there. That's the most Derek Carr thing I've ever seen in my life.
Seriously. We'll switch it over to studs. My first one is James Robinson, absolutely killing it so far this year. No one really expected that. Everyone was high on ETN coming in, but he was projected only 10.3 and scored 22.1, so doubled his projection, and he was playing a good defense in the Chargers. He had 17 carries, 100 yards, and a touchdown, and also had 3 catches for 16 yards. So, yeah, I think James Robinson, I mean, he seems to be the clear lead back there with ETN being more of a 1B option. And I think the production will be there all year for Robinson, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, they're getting close to the same touches, I feel like, but Robinson's getting 85% of the carries. So
and he's getting all the goal line work.
Yep.
Which is what you love. So
yep. My first stud this week was a guy on the worst offense in the league, I would say, so far this season. And that is Ramondre Stevenson. He finally got over 10 carries. 8 carries, 9 carries first 2 weeks. Absolutely sick for him. But 12 carries for 73 yards, made good use of his carries. He also had 4 receptions for 28 yards. He added a touchdown, got him 16 points in standard. Half PPR, he had 18, which coming from his first 2-week performances was a big step up. And coming from the Patriots offense, that I am really scared to have any fantasy value.
Yes.
Any fantasy shares in the Patriots offense is bad news. So, but it was a good week from Ramondre. Had to give him a shout out. I don't think I'll be giving him any more throughout the season, so I had to use it while I could.
His one time. Yep, had to use it up. Oh, that's funny. Yeah. He has definitely been. He also honestly even, I think it was 40-25 outsnapped Damian Harris. So he was on the field for a lot more than Damian Harris, which I thought was surprising. My second stud is the guy who is 2 weeks in a row now led all scorers in fantasy points, and that is Lamar Jackson. Been an absolute terror these last 2 weeks. He was projected 22.46, and he scored 39.42 against the Patriots. Had 218 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick to go along with 11 carries, 107 yards, and a touchdown. Back-to-back games for Lamar with over 100 yards rushing. This guy, as Spinny and I accurately predicted preseason, is back to himself and having another MVP-type campaign. So if you have Lamar on any of your teams, you're absolutely loving it.
You're loving your life right now. Other than if you have Tom Brady in your team and you're hating your life, come on, GOAT. I need some more receivers in the game so we can get some production.
I have them in 3 leagues.
Yeah, I have them in guillotine. Sweet stuff, Tommy. Come on. We need you.
Okay. That was it, though, huh? For Dubs and Studs?
That was it. That was Dubs and Studs right there. Boom, bang, boom. Chopped it out. Let us know what you think, even though our Dubs and Studs were perfect this week. So you couldn't even question it if you tried, because we are the best. So that's it. That's it. It's over. It's cut. Boom. On to our waiver wire pickups. And just want to say, if you haven't switched your waiver wire pickups in your fantasy leagues to Wednesday morning, you are tripping. So move them to Wednesday, and then you'll care even more about this when we put it out on our Tuesday night morning situation. So do that, commissioners all around.
Facts. Major facts there. Spinny, start us off. Who's your first waiver wire target?
It's a Packer. Romeo Doubs.
Yeah.
This man has seemed like he has been the only one to stay healthy in the Pats offense. So that obviously has been part of it. But why can't I find his stats right now? I'm just tripping. Here we go. He actually got 8 targets this week. So it seemed like he's earned a little bit more trust with Rodgers and got gotten more of that. They involved him in the offense a lot. He caught all 8 of his targets, 73 yards. Finished with 17.3 points in half PPR.
Yeah, I was gonna say he had a tutty too.
Yeah, a touchdown as well. Absolute good game from him. And it seems like, given that their other rookie receiver can't stay on the field, and Lazard, obviously, even though a lot of us invested too much in him in fantasy, obviously has his limitations as a player. So I think Romeo Doubs could become one of Rodgers' best targets. He is only owned in 39% of leagues, started in 5% of leagues. So even if he is on a team, you could probably trade for him on the low, especially in your redraft style league. So Romeo Doubs, player to target.
Yeah, he gives me a solid flex option vibes, I feel like, for the rest of the season. I'm a little disappointed in him, though, because after his 2 bad performances to start the year in the one league that I had him in, actually the 2 leagues I had him in, I just dropped him. So, of course, he goes off right when I drop him. So, yeah, I might be picking his ass back up. My first waiver wire target is Zay Jones. And wow, when did you think we would ever mention a WR2, maybe WR3 on the Jaguars as a potential viable fantasy option? But it's real. It's true this year. Zay Jones only owned it 14% of the leagues, and coming into this week is a WR3. He's sitting at WR26 right now. He is coming off a 10-catch game, 11 targets, 85 yards, and a touchdown. He's been running more routes and been on the field more than Marvin Jones. So it seems that he is now eclipsed Marvin Jones as WR2 on the Jags. And in a team that has been is trending up these last couple of weeks. Trevor Lawrence is playing well. They throw a lot too. This is a guy you might want to target if you're weak at the wide receiver position. So Zay Jones.
Agreed. Another guy at wide receiver that you can target, especially given the insane amount of injuries this offense has had, is Josh Palmer, wide receiver for the Chargers. Only owned in 41% of leagues, started in 11. He has had 8 and 9 targets in his last 2 games since those guys have been out. They play Houston this week, so I think given what's going on, there might be a lot of passing, especially at the beginning of that game. Herbert loves to spread around. Josh Palmer, guy that you could definitely get 10 to 14 points out of production with a high likelihood of success.
Yeah, I like Josh Palmer. That's a good one. Greg Dortch. I mean, looks like we're sticking on the wide receiver train. A lot of available wide receivers here that have been playing really well. Greg Dortch for the Cardinals, only owned in 32% of leagues. Actually, WR2. Back end WR2 right now. He's WR19 as we speak. And his worst game was week 1, where he put up 7 catches for 63 yards, 9.8 fantasy points, and half PPR. So very solid wide receiver. He's been getting tons of targets, tons of looks. This is a guy, especially with the injury to Rondale Moore, he's been getting on the field a lot more. So, again, if you're weak at wide receiver, low fin, this is a guy you might want to add, especially with Hopkins still out for 4 more weeks.
I like it. Another lower key waiver wire guy is Richie James for the Giants. You obviously don't love having an investment in the Giants offense, but he has been targeted 6 and 5 times and played on over 70% of the snaps in 2 out of the 3 games. So I think as a low key target, only owned in 7% of leagues, and especially in your deeper formats, is a guy you can target that might actually be available.
Yeah, that one's interesting. Poor Sterling Shepard, man. That man cannot catch a freaking break. Oh, my gosh.
And how awful is Kenny Galladay?
He is so bad. He's out there crying he's crying to the media about his playing time. It's like, why the hell would Dabble play you? You go in and you're just ass. Like,
you're awful.
Yeah. Like, he's like, they pay me. Why am I not seeing the field? Like, I better see the field. Like, no, they'll pay you to sit on the bench if you're going to be that ass.
If you're going to be that mid.
Yeah.
Ugh.
My last waiver wire target for this week is Isaiah McKenzie, wide receiver for the Bills, 34% of leagues he is owned in. He's a little lower than the last 2 guys I mentioned. He's sitting at WR35 right now, so he's a WR4. But last week he went 7 catches on 9 targets, 76 yards, and a touchdown. This is a guy I feel like you definitely want to pick up, especially in PPR leagues, because as we saw these previous years, a guy named Cole Beasley, he was able to produce in fantasy, especially in the PPR leagues, running in that slot for the Bills. So you love guys on high-powered offenses like the Bills. So why not target their WR3, who in weeks, if Diggs and Davis are out, is all of a sudden bumped up to WR2 on their team. So this is a guy that you should definitely stash on your bench.
There it is. Waiver claims, pick them up, do what you will with them. There they are. All right. Now, move on to the final segment, over and unders. We're going to start with the unders, start with the sad, end with the positive. And I'm going to start with Justin Herbert. Obviously, I still think he's going to be hurt. I still think he's going to struggle. I think he's going to play. He's too tough not to. He is that guy. But a projection of 21.1 points, I think, might be a little high. He only beat that by 2 in both of his healthy weeks, scoring 23, and then last week he had 12. Houston's defense hasn't given up a lot of points to quarterbacks so far this season, actually. So you could see a little bit more. I know this is the opposite of what I said on the Josh Palmer take. I just like Josh Palmer's value as their WR2, even if they pass less, just because I think he'll be open. But the passing less, and especially in the red zone, I think there might be a lot more running against Houston's defense. So you might limit Herbert's touchdown ability, which limits his fantasy production. Going under there.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like that. I like that take. My first under is a guy that Spinny shouted out as a stud, and even though he did say this is probably the only week we'll talk about him, and that is Ramondre Stevenson. He's projected. Where's my notes here? 8.2 this week versus the Packers. As we've seen so far, the Packers defense is really good. So they play in Green Bay too, and Brian Hoyer's lined up to be the starting quarterback. This is not good news for the Patriots offense whatsoever. Ramondre and Damian Harris, they're going to see stacked boxes all day, the entire game. The Patriots will, I imagine, get absolutely obliterated in this game, which obviously doesn't help Ramondre's outlook getting carries and things like that. So I'm going under on Ramondre this week.
I like it. My second under is Michael Carter. I think Michael Carter is just a little overprojected. Projected 9.57 points in half PPR. The Steelers defense has given up a lot of points to running backs so far this season, but I think they're gonna maybe improve a little bit on that. Given that their pass rush isn't as good anymore, they have to tighten a bit down on the run game, especially against the Jets, who, with how much Flacco's passed, they're really going to try to go to the other end on that. And I think Breece Hall is going to start getting more reps than Michael Carter. So I think a guy who's been under both of the first 2 weeks is going to be under again for 3 weeks in a row.
I like it. My other under this week is Allen Robinson, a guy who's obviously been underperforming a lot this year, projected 8.43 points. They play the 49ers, so this is not good news for Allen Robinson. The 49ers actually have allowed the fewest total receiving yards in the NFL so far, and they're tied for the fewest allowed receiving touchdowns. So this is not good news for the pass catchers of the Rams. Obviously, Cooper Kupp, he's still going to do his thing. So I'm thinking Stafford in this game, he's going to lean on Kupp, obviously, per usual. And then for the short routes, dump offs, things like that, he's really going to lean on dumping it off to his running backs and Higbee. So that trend that we've seen so far through 3 weeks with the Rams, I think that continues again in week 4, making Allen go under.
There's our unders, folks. Unders are done. Overs are up. On the overs, I have wide receiver DK Metcalf. Wow, a Geno Smith quarterback receiver is going on the overs? What? But the Detroit Lions have, other than Justin Jefferson, as we mentioned earlier, have given up a lot of points to number 1 receivers. And DK is going to get a lot of throws. He's only projected 10.77 in half PPR. So if he gets a touchdown, it pretty much guarantees that. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game as the Detroit defense has been rough so far. So over 10.77 and a half for DK Metcalf.
I like that. I think he's going over this week as well. My first over is CeeDee Lamb. We saw him coming off his best game of the year. Would even have been a monster game if he didn't drop that absolutely wide open touchdown catch, the first one. He is projected 14.09, so this one's a little riskier given his hefty projection. But they play Washington, a team that's been absolutely shredded so far on the defensive end. They've been in shootouts this whole year. He had 8 catches on 12 targets for 87 yards and a touchdown this past week. So yeah, even if Cooper Rush makes another start, I'm not really worried about CD in this game. Washington is 5th in receiving yards given up and 1st in receiving touchdowns given up so far through 3 games. So outlook is pretty good for the pass catchers in Dallas. And there's also reports that Dak potentially might play in this game. So again, which I don't think is going to happen, but obviously once Dak's back, CD's Lamb will be boosted. CD's Lamb value will be boosted. So I'm going over on the
CD's Lamb value will be boosted.
CD Lamb's value. Sorry, I had trouble spitting that one out. His value is going to be boosted obviously with Dak's back. So I'm going over on his hefty projection of 14.09.
Risky, but we like it. I'm going the opposite end. Dameon Pierce projected 8.1 points in half PPR. What are we doing?
What the hell?
Chargers D giving up the 26, been 26 so far in running back points given up. And so I think the Houston's going to really focus on running against the Chargers, especially again, given all the Chargers injuries. And I think he's going to easily get past that projection, especially again, any touchdown essentially guarantees this. So I'll take that bet against the Chargers.
Yeah, I can't see him going under, especially with him getting even more and more and more touches now than Burkhead. So I'm shocked that he's projected that low as of now. My last over is Jahan Dotson, another guy that I thought was projected a little too low. I thought he'd be in that 8-point range, but he's only projected 6.12 since he's coming off a dud performance here versus good defense in the Cowboys. Last week, even though he only scored like 2 or 3 fantasy points, he still had 8 targets. So the target share has been there the entire year for Jahan Dotson. And in the other 2 games, he doubled his projection. Doubled it. Didn't just slightly get over it. Absolutely doubled it. So he's been really good so far. The potential is there in this game for Washington to throw a lot, just like they did in the first 3 games, which obviously helps. More volume usually potentially leads to more fantasy success. So especially with Trayvon Diggs going to be covering, I imagine, Terry McLaurin the vast majority of the game, that should open up some things for Jahan Dotson.
I like it. There it is, Harry's and Ardos. Our fantasy
over-under
predictions are over-under, and our predictions for the end
I went
of
3 for 4 last week, by the way. Chase Edmonds was the only guy I got wrong. He went over when I predicted under.
Did you calculate mine? Shoot,
no, I didn't, honestly.
Honestly didn't. At Hardy's and Hardos, next week I will give you my last 2 weeks calculated. I'm a loser and didn't prepare that for this week. So hold me to it. Next week, we're getting both. And there you are. That's a wrap.
That is fantasy focus for this week. Focus. Actually, we're going to be putting out new fantasy segments too going forward. We'll try to change this up so we're not just only doing these 3 segments. But yeah, we're actually about to record our other episode, so you guys will have a lot of content to catch up on from us starting tomorrow on Wednesday.
Content for the people. All right, people. We love you. Goodbye. Here's your content.